I always loved the story of Frankenstein since I was very little. I really love the makeup and the character as it was portrayed by Boris Karloff in 1931 and then in subsequent movies. I just think it's one of the most iconic pop culture images, you know, with the flat head and the bolts. Then when I was a teenager, I read the Mary Shelley book. It doesn't deliver sort of the monster movie that, you know, you saw as a child, but in fact, it's a very thoughtful, passionate story about being an outsider. And so my love of the Frankenstein story just became deeper and deeper because I really appreciate the different themes, you know, the story of science gone wrong and the hubris of humanity, the sadness of being an outsider and not really getting along and not knowing, you know, where you belong. So those themes, I think, are worth retelling and revisiting. So I conceived of it in the modern setting. Yep, which is a bit of a threat to my film because he did also put it in a modern context, and he focuses on the, you know, the outsiderness. I mean, I think it's a very strong version. I really love many of the Frankensteins. It's like a cover song in pop music where you see how they deal with these themes and also just with the makeup. Christopher Lee in the Hammer films, that's one kind of makeup. Then Robert De Niro played him and he had lots of scars. And there were certain things I wanted to avoid. The idea that you would make a monster in a laboratory and have scars all over the face is so absurd. And that's what the De Niro makeup was. I was very influenced by a TV show called Frankenstein, The True Story. And here they had a very beautiful man, Michael Sarrazin, play the monster. And then what's cool there is that he starts to fall apart and decay and grow ugly. So there's just lots of ways to enter into the story. It's so rich. Well, I gave him the book, of course, and then I gave him some of the older movies. I gave him a DVD of Frankenstein, just so he understood the Karloff presentation. As an actor myself, I always use the script itself to be my Bible. You know, you can do a certain amount of research, but you come back to the script, and there are certain ideas to track that were very unique to my script. With Frankenstein, at least the movies have this idea of the brain transplant. So I wanted to think about the brain and identity and the difference between the physical life versus sort of having a soul and having memories, and, you know, try to think about where those things, you know, connect. So that was a lot of stuff for Alex to think about. Also, I read a book called My Stroke of Insight, which is a book about having a stroke and the way the woman who tells the story reconnected to her brain and therefore got her identity back. So I wanted him to be thinking about things outside of the Frankenstein story, you know. For quite a few years, it was just the name for my movies. But then I started meeting young filmmakers, and sometimes they would just be my intern. They would come to help, you know, pile boxes in my office. But I became excited to encourage them to make movies on very, very low budget and to use the creativity and the enthusiasm of youth. I think all the movies that I wanted to produce have this kind of association with horror in reality. Not horror that starts with scary music and then, you know, you're going to go for a ride on the roller coaster and scary. I'm much more interested in an everyday life story, and then something starts going wrong. I made a movie called Habit, which is a guy who thinks his girlfriend is a vampire. And the point is that if you believe something, it can start to become true to you. You know, I'm very interested in the subjectivity of life. So I encouraged a lot of filmmakers to make their first movie with me, you know, for very little money, just passion and smarts. And that was really what I wanted to do, inspire people. And so Ty West made 4 or 5 movies with us, and Jim Mickle made a movie called Stakeland. I still buy movies because I would rather watch The Shining again than watch some new movie that just was maybe not made with a lot of consideration. That's why I like films. I'll watch Frankenstein again. It's like a painting, you know, maybe you'll see a lot of paintings, but there's the certain ones that you care about. Maybe the same with music. I don't have this endless appetite for more things and new things. I think there's a nervous energy. I mean, of course, some people have to watch stuff so they can discover, you know, wonderful pieces, of course. But my own just personality, I like the same thing over and over and savor it and try to understand why you love it so much. You know, I'll watch a Hitchcock movie. I have a collection of movies, and then my son cares about film now. And it's fun to be able to pull off the shelf and say, I bought this because one day I would share it with you. And then I find sometimes on the streaming, you're endlessly sort of wondering if there's something better, and it's very distracting. Now, having said that, I'm very excited when I'm on the services and feel that for a younger audience, that's the way they're watching movies. I get it. And it's a blessing to be able to watch really almost anything you want at any time. Everybody in America says, oh, you must be popular in Europe because your movies are so boring. And I'm like, no, I don't really know that I am very popular in Europe. So it means a lot. Thanks for finding my movie. Merci, Shadows. À bientôt.